Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Instant Reaction. Arsenal 2, Villarreal CF3 at the Emirates. A preseason game, which two. Let's say that. Lots to get into, but I'm here and I'm joined by my boy George. How are you, sir?
I'm good, sir. I am looking forward to breaking this down. There's some very good things that I like to see in the first half, and then the second half was kind of more of the same. And one of those, I'm not worried, but I'm a little bit nervous.
A little bit shaky, a little bit. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yes, there was something that I think absolutely sums this up. I just tweeted out saying we were going live, and the first two responses, you probably can't see them on the screen, were, I think we need to chill. I want to see our strongest 11 start before we jump to conclusions. Next comment, we're cooked. And that is that is kind of where I'm at. Okay, let's start with our headlines. Thank you all for joining us. Hope you're all good. Just a reminder, we'll read out all the super chats at the end. New format for the instant reactions this season. We'll do our headlines, then we'll do first half, second half numbers, and we'll come to your comments. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for joining us. Headline: I'm worried, and that might be an emotional reaction, and that might be, and fair enough, and I might be completely unanalytical in that sense, and if so, that's the risk you take being a fan, right? I'm worried. We're 11 days away from Old Trafford. While I see some positives, and I see some strengths in this team, and I see some individual performances. I look at like Mosquera today. I look at Waneri. I look at Dalman. I'm really encouraged by some individual performances. I thought there was some stuff which we'll get into in the first half, which was exciting. We scored from a penalty and a set piece and conceded 3 on the transition against Villarreal. And you can make all the caveats you want. We are 11 days away from Old Trafford, and I don't feel particularly confident. I don't think anyone, in terms of the new signings, has settled yet. I think Zubamendi's probably the closest, but he's still making his way into the team. I don't understand why he's not starting. Maybe it's just a fitness thing. Who knows? But yeah, I just have to be honest about how I feel. Maybe I'm completely missing the point, and this is all part of the master plan. In which case, I would love that, and I would love that. But yeah, I have to be honest about how I feel. I am worried because I see a lot of the same issues. I see a lot of the same mistakes. I see a lot of the same issues with the same players in the same positions doing the same things that have frustrated us for so long, which we'll get into. I'm worried. That's my headline. George, what's yours?
The 2 DMs that we have recruited have come in and changed us very much. I think that Norgard has settled brilliantly. For me, was one of the stars of the first half, and genuinely just a preseason has been incredibly underrated. I think Zubamendi has walked in and seemed like he's known the system quite a bit. So the position that I was probably feeling like had the most to learn, I've seen the most execution for in the signings, and they've probably both produced the best sample, so to speak. Our attacking signings we haven't really seen, and Mosquera we've seen in glimpses. But I think the fact that our DMs have walked in and been able to produce, and so effectively produce, is a big positive for me.
Yeah, I probably broadly agree. Are you at all concerned by what we're seeing?
I mean, I'm annoyed with the fact that we've got 2 open play goals in 4 preseason games. But, for the most part, a lot of what I'm seeing, especially in the second half, is categorically not the type of team that we're going to be using. And I think my biggest frustration is that I've seen a lot of the same faults. And that's what makes me a little bit more worried. But in the first half, I'll be honest, mate, I can't wait to get into it. There was a lot of things that we were doing that was quite different for me. Probably one of the best tempo starts that I've seen in preseason. And then a lot of things kind of went downhill in the second half. There was a lot of the same intent. There was a lot of the same intentions there. And a lot of what I've seen are some fitness concerns. I mean, Gabriel looks incredibly off it, just coming back from injury. Also somebody that kind of starts slow. But broadly speaking, that was a team that I felt like if I have Marino at 9 and I've got Gabriel starting, who's not fit, and I've just got Timber, who's just come back, and I'm looking at a team that's drastically different without Saka as well. That second half 11 is not our first 11. So whilst I was annoyed with a lot of the same things, I'm also not somebody that thinks that that's going to be a starting 11 at Old Trafford. But I am annoyed that we haven't shown a little bit more in open play, just broadly speaking. That was kind of something that I think we all wanted to see as at least an intent from preseason. I don't think we've got that. So I'm frustrated there. But yeah, I'm like nervous, but I don't think I'm worried in the sense of like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a very difficult game at Old Trafford. I'm just a bit more annoyed that we haven't seen some more stuff in the first half. I was really annoyed that it was just this late into preseason to see new things, essentially.
You won't worry for the PSG games, so there you go. That it tells you your level as a fan in terms of worry. I think let's go into the first half because there was some interesting and encouraging stuff, which maybe I'll leave to you. I'll maybe talk about the concerns I had. I thought Waneri looked good in the pockets, but I felt as though we were playing with a forward line of Saka, Gyökeres, and Martinelli, which to me indicates a running game. And I didn't see enough forward intent to move that forward and play the running game that would have suited those forwards. And actually, I know this is the second half, but it felt as though the second half we played a game that was more suited to Martinelli and Gyökeres, and they'd gone off. So that felt like a mismatch to me. I felt as though Villarreal did pretty well to knock their line back, and we weren't doing enough in those sort of central spaces because we were getting a lot of joy in there. They were basically dealing with Gyökeres by being super conservative, I felt, and then we didn't do enough with those spaces. I think the press was good, but I think it was largely because Villarreal were really poor in the build-up. I thought they were mishitting passes. There was one point where the goalkeeper puts out into the literally his own corner somehow. They were mishitting stuff, misexecuting stuff. We were winning it back a number of times, and I didn't feel we fully took advantage of that. And yeah, I think it was a lot of similar stuff. Again, we can. These are my concerns. I can also make you an argument and go, yeah, but Gyökeres first start and and X, Y, and Z. But it was frustrating to watch. What do you feel were the changes, the positives that you saw?
No, I felt very different. I thought we were incredibly direct in the first half. There was a definite aggressiveness to our tempo, both in possession and out of possession. I thought our press was actually quite good in the first half. We were really blocking central lanes. The only times that I felt that we got cut off were like a few times Ben didn't jump his marker and judge it really correctly. And that was the only time that I felt Villarreal were able to get back. But there was a lot more tempo to our play in the first half, in my opinion. And there was a lot more willingness to go straight to our wingers quickly. I felt, in pockets, Ethan had a great game. For me, my big notes were Norgard had a brilliant game in the press in the first half. Beyond the goal was kind of a gimme, to be honest with you. I don't think it was anything special, just unmarked in the back post. But his work out of possession was really brilliant. And the way that he was allowing Ben to go forward, but then knowing when to slot in the back three really gave me some calm about Norgard understanding his place. I thought he was really underrated this preseason. And then Ethan, for me, was a big positive. I thought him in the first half, like he was really playing some smart passes, some smart reverse passes for Saka. And we walked out of that first half. My only frustration is we created many cutbacks for me, but they were all in the air. And when you're playing with the Gyökeres, you have to put that on the floor. And that was my only frustration, in which a lot of the chances that we did, they were kind of hits into an area. And that's not the type of center forward that we had. So one of my biggest notes was, okay, cutbacks on the floor. And that was something that, I felt was really the only critique I would have in the first half. But generally speaking, it was, 4 shots, 2 goals, 2 rebounds in the first half. And it came from passive box defending from Kivior in both of those. But other than that, I thought that we were playing quite well. I mean, one of the first things that Martinelli does in the first minute is take his man on the outside. And there was a lot more, I'd say, aggressive running in the first half. And I felt like it pattered off in the second. There was a lot of changes that, to me, the midfield didn't have the same zip, and the ball wasn't as quickly shown to our forwards. I thought there was a lot more intent in the first half to get it to our forwards quickly, playing more at tempo. And yeah, I thought that Ethan was pretty good in the first half. And, he was doing a lot of really interesting passing. And, I think Saka just needed to have like a little bit more clinical care in terms of his passes on the cutbacks. But generally speaking, I thought the first half was good. We were breaking them down. I think we were really good in terms of our tempo. And the press was really good. We just got caught out on 2 rebounds. A lot of my positives tend to decline in the second half. I'm going to be a lot more critical in the second half because I thought that the second half was really poor. But yeah, I thought the first half was really good, actually. I was quite impressed with it.
Interesting. I'd probably disagree with all three of those headlines. Like really, and it's maybe we need to shout at each other so people realize we're disagreeing, and that's how it works on other channels. I felt as though the balls in were quite targeted into good spaces. I felt the press could have been a lot better. I think there were some nice moments, but I think it could have been a lot better. Yeah, really interesting. Let's move to the second half. What the exciting part in the second half, I think, was the tempo of the game lifted, and I think whether that's right or wrong, good or bad, how we did that, it's nice to see this Arsenal team play with a bit of tempo and a bit of rhythm. And I felt, I know we disagree, but I felt there was more intent in that second half to get the balls into people quickly and into their feet. In terms of positives, a lot of them come down to individuals for me. I think Dauman, again, just absolutely extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary what he's doing. And I the more I watch him, the more convinced I am he'll get serious Premier League minutes. Fantastic player. I thought Mosquera was brilliant. I thought a lot of the moments in isolation where maybe I've not been concerned about him defensively, but wanted to have a look at him defensively, he really shone. Athletic stuff, like almost like picking balls out the air with his legs and stuff, like some really nice sort of improvised things. Yeah, I thought in general, although I think we were a little bit wasteful and maybe didn't create enough in terms of actual good opportunities, I thought the second half for me, because I saw a bit more tempo, felt more encouraging, maybe as an antidote to what felt like similar issues in the first half. But yeah, curious on your take.
Yeah, I had a lot more criticism of the second half personally. I felt like a
We need
lot
to
of the
shout
same
at each other
intents.
so people know we're disagreeing, George. That's how it works.
I mean, my three headlines were my three headlines were Max. I thought Zubamendi was brilliant. Zubamendi's been brilliant all preseason, and it doesn't get spoken about enough. I mean, to do what he's doing is genuinely incredible. And I agree. I thought Mosquera looked great. He is also my type of defender, so I'm really cognizant of
He's got
not
the kid on your
having that
shoulders, isn't he?
bias. Yeah, and
The
he's
big
so
ones.
quick. Yeah, and he's so quick and he's positive. Like for me, okay, sometimes there's some things that I look at his distribution with and I'm like, I don't know if that's the best technique, but he's so positive and he's so early with his passes that I go, I like that. I like that intent. So I'm cognizant that that's just a subjective thing in my defenders that I really like to see. But generally speaking, in the second half, I felt like our tempo slowed down. There was a little bit more horseshoe passing. I thought we weren't as central with our passes. And, I have a look at, Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, and there was a lot of those same critiques that I found in the half spaces that I was really worried about. I thought when Nani Madueke came on, there was a couple good moments in terms of crossing. But again, generally speaking, there was a lot less movement for me. Towards the end of the first half, Martinelli and Gyökeres were overlapping quite a bit, and they were beginning to at least show signs of kind of a relationship, but I felt like there was a lot more rigidity in the second half. And the one thing was Max for me. He was just a superstar. He would pick up the ball and create chances at will on his own, but people were almost waiting for him to do something. And that was really frustrating to see. And I don't like that we put Marino into the center forward position. After that, I think it was a little bit horses for courses. We don't really have Havertz. I don't know what happened there. Maybe there was an injury, but the pattern of play became predictable. Marino at 9, Declan in the half spaces, carry, lay off to somebody, recycle the ball. Martin Odegaard, I felt like could have been a little bit more aggressive in his passing, wasn't. And we were waiting for Max to kind of do something. And that to me was the predictability part of the second half. I've seen that game before, and it was, really, really frustrating to see. So, we lost our overlapping presence on the right. But again, the one positive I'd say of the second half is I have seen more overlapping from fullback in general. I mean, Zinchenko did it in the second half as well. Timber was doing it. Mosquera at first, he was almost playing right back when he first came in, and I saw him do it. There was a little bit more intent to get that running, but yeah, I felt like the second half there was a lot of the same critiques for me, and the left wing became a lot more isolated. It was a recycle game. Declan carrying in the half space, but carrying into a kind of congested middle, then circling back. And we had this kind of horseshoe pattern develop again a lot more in the second half for me. And I was just looking at Max and saying, I don't like that I'm just singing your praises. And the only thing that I'm sitting there thinking is he's my inspiration. And I'm like, that shouldn't be the case, but it's true. He's taking his man on. He's dictating. He's telling where to go. Like there was a moment in which I think Odegaard had picked it up in the pocket, and he's trying to play through Marino, and he overhits his pass in a central area. And Max is like throwing his hands up. Look, I love all those things. It's really annoying that was my star of the show.
Yeah,
And of course, I
agreed.
do think Zubimendi did really well because I still think from the back he was distributing brilliantly. He was setting the tempo quite well. He was sending a message on his passes very well. But again, I'm looking at the use of our eights and our starting eights there. And I'm recognizing a pattern of almost a carry into trouble, recycle, carry into trouble, recycle.
Yeah,
And that's incredibly frustrating.
it's alarming how much I think this team would improve if you just swap them. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. And like I can't put it simpler than that. And it just like I don't understand how you can watch. Declan Rice is a world-class footballer, and in every other phase of play, I just think he adds so much to the team. But when he's in those inside pockets, he just gets stuck under his feet so often, and things break down, and teams know how to get him. He doesn't look comfortable on that side. I really don't get it. And Odegaard, the moment he comes over to the left, he played one ball through to Martinelli. It was perfect. And you're just like, come on, guys. Like, how long are we going to do this?
But you know what?
Let's move on to the numbers.
Sorry, just really quickly. What was brilliant? I want to highlight this with Max. This is what's brilliant to me. I felt like in the first half, we definitely generated chances in terms of cutbacks, but they were all in the air. They were all aerial, and that's not the type of striker Gyökeres is. Max walks in, and one of the first cutbacks that he does is, yes, it's on the outside, but it's across the floor near post.
Yeah.
It was the only one that did that. And I'm thinking, like, that's a maturity level that why the hell is a 15-year-old the one that's able to be aware of that? And, that's the first pass that, is a Gyökeres run, regardless of whether he gets there or not. Like, that was something we needed to see. And it was just a composure that I think not many people showed on that side, but the 15-year-old did. So it just shows how special he is. But I thought that was brilliant by him.
Yeah, there was. I'm not sure if this is the one you're referring to. I don't think it is. There was another one to Rice a little bit later on where it's a really good cutback. It gets cut out, but in terms of the angle, very quickly, he's right on the touchline, or on the byline, sorry, and he gets it back. And it's really nice. Here's the numbers. Arsenal 2, Villarreal 3, 1.6 expected goals to 1.4, 17 shots to their 8, 7 shots on target each, 9 open play shots to their 8. And then the usual numbers: more on possession, more on passes, more on field tilt, more on final third entries, more on expected threat created, more on deep touches, more on zone 14 touches, more open play crosses, more progressive passes, more dribbles, more less tackles, 4 6 interceptions to 9, and then the numbers down there: 7.9 PPDA to their 29.7. There is the running XG across the match. Obviously, the penalty jumping that up, I think that really tells a story. We created 0.75 XG across the game before the 75th minute. And that tells you something about our chance creation and then where the shots are coming from as well. You can see how low the chance creation is and the quality of the chances we're getting there on the shot map as well. But George, we always win the Field Tilt World Championships. We always do. I don't even think the field tilt joke is going to make me happy this season. I really don't. We might have to create a new one.
It's a perfect picture on field tilt. Yeah,
an expected threat,
better.
An expected threat joke or something. Before we come to the comments and come to super chats, thank you guys so much for joining us. Over 2,000 of you watching live, even after a 3-2 loss in preseason, which is amazing. Let's do an individual each. We've mentioned quite a few of them. I am going to go Martinelli, and I know we're going to disagree on this based on, well, I think we're going to disagree on this based on what you said about him today. He's on thin ice for me. He really is. I fully appreciate the conversation we always have about the environment around him. It doesn't help him. End of story. Put that on the board. That is true. I just see so much head down. I see when he comes into areas where I expect him to create something, he gets crowded out. He takes too long. He takes too many touches. I just feel I'm trying to improve Arsenal Football Club. I'm not trying to save Martinelli's career. That's not what we're here to do. I'm not here to fix Martinelli or whatever. I'm here to make Arsenal better. And I can't help but feel, whether that's Reece Nelson or Madueke or a signing, Arsenal gets better if he plays less for Arsenal Football Club right now. And is that fair on him? Different conversation. But I think that is the position in our team right now where the ball goes to die, where the ball doesn't come out of, where chances, it doesn't feel like they can be created. There's flashes when he gets inside, but not enough. I'm at a loss with him at the minute, and that's my position with Martinelli. And it's sad. It is sad.
Yeah, we'll probably disagree on that.
Yeah, fair.
I think like when part of the problem is like there's this duality of you both things can be true. There's things that we've beat to death on this podcast about the spectrum of individual towards environment. And when I'm looking at the game today, I saw a guy go on the outside in his very first action. I didn't see somebody that was head down, not willing to go on the outside and go for cutbacks. I saw somebody a little bit more sharp today, personally, in this cameo. I think when we have a conversation about how we attack, it's kind of I have more questions on the inside than I do on the outside right now. And I've seen some things in preseason in terms of our fullbacks being more willing to go on the overlap. I've seen, again, I felt like the movement between Martinelli and Gyökeres, especially towards the end of the first half, was something to be positive about. But when I look at the second half, and I think my biggest issue is Rice carrying into that half to lay it off to the left wing, to then recycle the ball, and that's the extent of our combination play. I have a real issue with, and I think that could we get somebody to be better 1v1 on the outside, more unpredictable. We just did a scouted on Leao, so you'd probably want to have a look at that.
That might have informed my feelings today. Yeah.
So that might be a difference in terms of you wanting to beat your 1v1, but then fundamentally, I'm just saying I'm still going to be giving one of the most dangerous players one or two chances to beat 3 or 4 men on his own on the outside. And I'm saying, I'm really happy with that. I don't know if that's my go-to on this. So yeah, I don't know if that's the story for me with Martinelli. I think that he has to do a bit more in terms of his consistency of action. Like, he doesn't help himself when he receives a pass and his touch is poor in space. It's one of those where you look at a player who's trying, who's not working in the current role in the current system. It's not his role or system, but also at the same time, there's some actions that you're doing that are beyond environment, that you're doing poor and that you need to fix. So, I could look at other people that I feel like in the market could do a bit better, but I'm kind of always gone back to the idea that I don't think that we should have a Declan Rice carry into the left half space and a layoff as soon as we get to the box, and then a recycle, because now we've got everybody in the box and they're all set. And I don't like that. And I've seen that pattern so much in the second half.
Fine.
That it annoys me.
Fine, and I agree. But also, if I was thinking during the game, if I clipped up Martinelli's last 100 actions where he's got the man stood up and what he does, I think I'd cry. Like, seriously, it's not good enough. Mojoman, oh boy, give something support, please. Thank you, Mojoman, for your I don't know what they're called. They're like sort of they're the comment you get, starred comments you get as a member. But he's been a member for 19 months. So thank you very much, Mojoman. Appreciate it. Big Cheese, we just seem really unprepared for the season to begin in a week, offensively and defensively. We sort of discussed maybe this stuff on the pitch in terms of preparation. In terms of fitness, they're starting to look a bit. Saka was sort of showing signs today. There were sort of flashes that he's starting to look a bit quick. I mean, the thing is like, if we go to Old Trafford and we win, I won't care. But if we lose, I'll be looking back at preseason going, did we have them fit enough, quick enough? I don't know. It's good to have Gabriel and Timber back, but we didn't have Trossard, Havertz. There was a couple of others today who dropped out. Nelson didn't play. So yeah, there are some fitness concerns. Where do you think we're at fitness wise? I think we looked all right. I think after if we, as long as probably next game we play as close to our strongest 11 as possible, I'll be pretty comfortable.
It's a weird one because I think people aren't going to appreciate this, but the first 2 weeks is going to be a mix mash of clear second strings that look more fit. Do you play the more fit person versus some first team members that aren't fit? For example, I thought Kivior had a tough time in his box.
He did.
I'm not confident with that. And I look at Mascara, and I think I'd probably prefer a Saliba-Mascara partnership if I'm forced between an unfit Gabriel and an unavailable Calafiori. Yeah. Meanwhile, Kivior's been with us a lot longer, but I felt
would you do Timber, White, Saliba left centre back?
Timber, White, Saliba. I mean, I just feel like that's a lot of change, to be honest with you. And it's possible. Like it's not an option I'd ignore. I just think it's a lot of change, and I think that Timber is coming back from an injury himself. Like Timber and Gabriel are both people that haven't really trained much with Arsenal and haven't really had a preseason. So I'm not ecstatic about having them in. And I kind of lean towards the people that look more fit. I mean, again, like I look back at Mascara, and he is new to the team, but he's had a fit preseason. He had, matches under his belt, and he looks fit. And so it's one of those that you're going to have to balance, right, between a clear second choice, but looks more fit. And do you take the chance? Because I don't look at Timber off his injury and think I should really put you in unless they've got more fitness metrics than me. So if he looks sharp in training,
they
then have him in. So
George, sorry to shock you. They do. If we go into the season with the same left winger and no new attacking midfielder, we're not going to win SH1T, says Basic Footy. Leao and Eze would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, it's that it's that simple, isn't it? I mean, what I can do is I can go, well, if you move Odegaard and Rice around, and then maybe you play Waneri for. We're facing a team who are like trying to sign Barcola now. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like just sign some players. Just sign some players. Nicholas Ting says Martinelli is a myth. Can anyone say one single trait has improved since 22-23? Tired of seeing that head down dribbling. I think Nicholas. I think he has. I think he's improved out of possession. I think he's improved in terms of like meeting his marker out of possession and over the shoulder. I think there's some stuff. I think he's more technically secure. Like I think his touch is better. And I'm genuinely thinking about 22-23. He was more explosive. I think he's refined that a little bit. But the big stuff, so the head down, the creating from the touchline, the isolating your man and beating in 1v1, like those things that you really look at for a winger. Yeah. That's my feeling. But George is head of the Martinelli fan club, so it's a joke.
Yeah, no, I think he's been from 22-23, the transition to making him this like controlled ball retention winger is ridiculous. Like he thrived off chaos, and so you had to give him more chaos. In terms of what he's improved, I thought that he's a lot better under contact. People don't remember Martinelli pre-22-23. The guy was falling over at every touch, even though he was quite explosive and running through the center of the pitch. He wasn't able to retain the ball out wide. Now he's retained it, great, but it's no longer threatening. And that's so that's not great. But you combine some of those things with some of the exciting things that you took away. You start to have a player, and you start to allow him to be more central.
Tim Shelton, share Alex sentiment. We can't seem to buy a goal in open play. Been impressed with Zubi. Also, think we should entertain the idea of Ethan starting game week 1. Well, again, it comes back to this current Arsenal team with, if you imagine the first 11, I'm really open to the idea of Ethan Waneri because if the lack of central access and what I think he could do, and I think he looked really, really sharp today, really, really quick in his actions. He looks fit. Like if we're talking about players who look fit in this team, he looks really fit. Pause. So I mean, in terms of like we were saying earlier about starting maybe second players or second choice players because they look fit, like he might be one of those players. But if you get Eze and Eze looks good and Eze can receive in those inside channels, we'll have a different conversation. So.
That's the debate. That's what's going to be the debate because there's going to be a collection of players that are second choice that are looking more fit. And, do you play the fit people or do you play the people that are your first choice? That's going to be a debate. And I think it only exists for the first 2 weeks of the season typically. Yeah,
I think it can impact games big time. Austin, tell me if I'm wrong, but these positives really deserve to take a backseat to the very scary and glaring issues of the preseason. We look unprepared. Yeah, it's really difficult because, behind the curtain here, we're on an instant reaction, we're on a live. I don't want to just go. No, this is it. I don't know, and this is the difficulty. And I think what happens, and I've said this before, is there's two extremes, and there's everyone in the middle. There's two extremes. I think sometimes there's people who everything negative they ignore, and then if something positive happens, they go, see, I told you everything's good. And then the other thing happens where everyone's constantly negative. There's nothing ever good. We lose a game and they go, see, I told you everything's negative. The hardest part is trying to go, right, where does this all fit together? Because it's not all negative, it's not all positive. I don't know. And that's the hardest part right now is we're working on scraps of information. We're working with players. We don't know their fitness levels. We don't know how the dynamics are going to work. We don't know who's going to start. We don't know who we're facing. We don't know who we're playing. We don't know. Like, there's so many. And that's why I say I'm worried, because I have worries, but I can't then say I'm killing the club for it, because I don't know. And that's my difficulty in the whole of preseason. It's like, how far do you go? And this is the difficulty, is the people killing the club right now, if we win the first 3 games, won't look back and go, oh, I was wrong about preseason. They just won't talk about it. But also, and the vice versa is true as well. So yeah, it's hard to say.
Well, I think we've kind of talked about it on some of the main pod in terms of some of the apprehension, because you're seeing the same issues. And I think fundamentally you wanted to see a solution to those issues early and a big change, because you were looking at, there being this big pressure this season. That's really what it comes down to. So, I mean, I think we said a lot of it on the main pod, and it's an extension of it. And, when you see another game that was, again, in my opinion, a game of 2 halves, I think we disagree on when those halves are good, but it was like a game of 2 halves fundamentally. And you're looking at some things that are very good and some things that are kind of shit. It's like, that's not where you want to be. You're a little Gattuso, and you're feeling a little bit Gattuso, and you're 11 days out from a season that what you wanted was this 22-23 style of confidence, because how important this season is. And the fact that we don't have that, again, it's never this extreme of 100% it's not going to work and 100% it's going to work. There's no I told you so moment, depending on any side. But I think one thing everyone can agree on, we were looking for a replication of that feeling we had, not really the football, but that feeling of confidence that we had. And we know how important the season is and how important the games are at the start of this season and how difficult those are. And that's the, what's his name? Is it Skritter? I keep referencing him. I really should learn his name.
Tom Skinner, I believe is his name. You call him Screener or something.
Tom Skinner. Okay. So that is why people are feeling apprehensive and annoyed and kind of like, I just want to be confident. And they're not feeling that way. And there's frustrations to that.
Basic footy. Do you think Arteta's system isolates strikers like Gyökeres? Aubameyang was our last real 9, and even he was too isolated, not involved enough. Gyökeres didn't have enough service today for me. We didn't play to his strengths, so I can't judge. And actually, I thought in flashes that he did have, he actually did all right with it. I think he had something like 7 touches, so I can't, I think some of that might be to do with, like, for example, if I need to see more. If he's just being told to stand between the 2 posts, I'm concerned, because between the 2 sides of the box, that's a concern for me, because I think his game is bigger than that. But also, if we're not going to play a running game with Gyökeres in the team, don't have him in the team. Like, honestly, like it's that desperate to me. If you're not going to play him through, there was a number of situations where he was peeling off the last man. There was a channel and someone played it out wide, and you go, well, literally, what's the point in having him on the pitch then? Like, seriously, if you're not going to play him in.
Look, they've been together for a week as well. Yeah. Like he's a very different type of striker. And like my biggest critique that I said in the first half, I have it in my notes here. Every single cutback was in the air. Gyökeres is poor in the air. It needs to be on the floor. Very first thing Max Dowman does in the second half, on the floor. And I'm standing up and I'm applauding. Like, the team needs to kind of learn what type of striker he is. It's very different to the striker that they're used to. And I think one thing that I am annoyed about, just generally speaking with Mikel, is we know what Marino at 9 looks like. Preseason is the time to try things. And at the same token, I do feel like towards the second half, if I'm really being honest, he felt the pressure of the crowd being annoyed. He was trying things in the first half. The game state wasn't going well. We were conceding, and everybody wanted a big sunny day at the Emirates. And I think he was feeling it, and he started to change and say, I'm not going to try things. I'm going to try to win the game. And then we reverted back into things that we already knew. And I'm like, okay, why did you succumb to that? Like, this is preseason. Like, ignore the noise right now. You're trying things for a purpose so that you can understand the limits of the squad. Yeah. I do think he let the crowd get to him personally in this game. And we started doing things that we already knew.
There was a moment where he received it back to goal and he got shoved, and then he just went and fouled the guy. And I was like, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
That also, I don't care what people think about this, because I want Gyökeres to succeed. It really isn't about that. if he doesn't succeed, the whole hair thing, the whole Odegaard thing, because he keeps doing that. I guarantee you it becomes a meme. I guarantee you. Might have to sort of slightly rattle through these just because we're on a bit of a tight time schedule, but thank you all for your super chats. We will read them all out. Martinelli as well, can't take watching him anymore, says Tim. Hopefully we discussed that enough, but thank you for the super chat, mate. Nathan, the second half was to get it to wingers. Martinelli and Saka had bad games. Players seem to be out of position when there's a cutback. Is this trained? Yeah, on the cutbacks thing, I again, we said it in the initial analysis. I think there were some ones on the ground in the first half, but what I do see is it feels like we can never quite judge that distance, and it feels like Max is one of the only person who puts it right into the danger area. And for me, the danger area, especially when the wing has gone wide and overlapped, isn't the 6-yard box, and it isn't like sort of the penalty spot. It's that gap between it. And we never have a player there. It's someone that, for me, they're always too close to the 6-yard box, or they're like at the edge of the box, and it feels like there's a line of defenders and it always gets it out. And I don't quite know whether that's coordination, and I'd be interested to hear from people who are more on the grass than me where they would put it. But that to me feels like the place to put it, and it feels like we never have anyone there.
Maybe that's something that I can analyze in a future tactics corner, because I think really I'm seeing very clear coaching patterns right here. It's runners pushing the back line to expose a penalty spot, third man run. That's what we do. And we don't vary it enough. And it's like, even with Saka and the dink to the back post, it's not even a dink to the back post. It's a dink to the penalty spot for a third man run to attack, and to attack with pace. And we don't flash it across the face of goal enough. But now we've got a striker that, regardless of like the pros and cons, like that's his game. So flash it across the face of goal and let him run onto it. And so, but the cutbacks aren't showing that thought process. It's more of just the trained clip to the back post, clip to the top of the penalty spot for a third man run to attack. And that's it.
And I think the variety is an issue. And I don't think the penalty spot is, for me, is the most dangerous location. It's that little gap in front of it. Ali, why is Rice an attacking midfielder in this system? This attack systemically needs a new rebuild, and I don't think Arteta is the guy to do that. Look, I think ultimately we just haven't seen it yet. Madueke has had 2 training sessions. Yoker has started today, and we have to give him some time. Zubimendi's just coming in. It looks like we're going to sign another attacker. I can't ask Mikel to rebuild a midfield if I haven't, why he hasn't rebuild the attack if I haven't yet seen the pieces he wants to rebuild the attack with. We just have to wait. You might be right, mate. I don't know. But unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait. And I think we're in a very, very early stage to say that. But I agree on the Rice thing in terms of the usage. I think we spoke about that a little bit earlier. Junior, that Nicola Pepe looks good. How much do you reckon he'd cost? Haha. I guarantee the moment he had Arsenal in his calendar, he was thinking that's the game. And you could see he was playing out of his skin at points. He was playing out of his skin. And players do that. Do not think they're as much up for one game as the other. He was up for that game, and he was like, I'm going to show you. Fair play. So nothing on Ethan. Too selfish. Refuses passing. You going to let your...
I respectfully disagree with that quite a bit. I thought that he was very open in this game. And you know what? I thought this was one of his better performances, period. There were times that he was trying reverse passes in the pockets. I don't agree. I thought that Ethan was releasing very well. And he was playing brilliantly for me. And in the press, he was really understanding his triggers. Like, this was a really top performance by Ethan. I will really push back on that. One of the better players for me, top 2 in the first half.
Yep, I agree. Aaron says, I feel like Martinelli needs support at left wing. Eze coming and being a higher left central midfielder, and Rice moving to a deeper right role would help him a lot, I think. I agree. I fully agree. And at that point, I'd be like, okay, let's give Martinelli 10, 15 games to see how he plays with these. And again, if Martinelli scores loads of goals, it means Arsenal win. So great for us. You know what I mean? We do need to look at his contract situation, by the way, Martinelli. Like I think he's approaching, is he 2 years or 3 years?
He's on 3 years, but I think he's on 3 years, but he's approaching that like, well, you need to sign him on if you want him part of the project.
No, 27, mate, but with an option.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, yeah, with an option. So yeah, effectively 3. So the thing is, look, the only thing I'm going to say, and we'll move on from it, that whole Rice carry lay off to the last line looks very different with an essay. on the inside
Yep.
in terms of
I
the
agree.
role. Same role, different player, different intents.
I agree. Adam, people aren't ready for this conversation, but MLS inverted play needs work. Too often hesitates and has to pass it back, plus never overlaps while Zinchenko is way worse defensively. He's more fluid on the left-hand side. I do think, I was thinking this today, and this might be one of those things where you lose a game and you start, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Is he a touch one-footed?
He's always been that way. I've
Too
even
much
made
so,
points about
to
it.
the point where it limits
No.
to the point where it limits him.
No,
I'm not saying
yeah.
he is. That was the thought that crossed my mind where I was looking at him and I was thinking it feels like a lot of options are locked off because you aren't the other ones for standing on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I've talked about it in previous times with Miles. Like one of the big things that, by the way, England put him at right back one time was to open up the use of his right foot, because too often he does go to the left. But the fact that he doesn't have the technique there, no, like he does. It's a decision for him to go left. It's kind of like, this isn't this is all hate. I'm gonna get these comments now. This isn't Odegaard, who I feel like refuses to use his weak foot.
You hate Odegaard.
Yeah, essentially. I don't think it's that, but I do think, like, yeah, I've made it a point in the past. He needs to work on using his right foot more, and he doesn't like to.
Because of his rise, we forget the guy's 18. So, like, if he has things to work on in his game, yes, of course he does. So I wouldn't be surprised if by, say, 23, this is something we're not even thinking about. I just think at the minute it's something.
But also, like, and yeah, really quickly, like on the Miles thing, I think some of this, in terms of the inverted, we forget the man had like the best dual success rate in terms of not being able to do like left back inverted. He can. It's just we need to start having a little bit more serious conversations about where we want our players. Like, if you're talking about, I need a little bit more distribution from that side of the pitch, then fine. But then you're looking at, sorry, we have to kill our darlings. Rice doing what he's doing and swapping that for Miles is going to look infinitely better. Eze doing the same thing in those carries, it's going to look infinitely better. It's about kind of what you want this team to do, really, for me.
I think that's true, but I'm not sure that's what the comment was getting at. And I think it's more about individual decisions. And I think today was a game when I was looking at Miles and some of his decisions in isolation. Forget where the spaces are, where the players are. And I do kind of, it's not, for me, it's not a sort of chronic issue, but it's something just to keep an eye on. I don't know why every time the ball is played out wide before crosses is delivered into the box, if somehow Arteta can get the team to progress the ball more centrally, Gyökeres could become extremely dangerous. I think that will happen, honestly. And I do think if we end up getting an Eze, I think that will be a thing, and we'll get the ball out of those areas quicker. I think Ethan would be a thing if he grew more influence. I think at the minute Ethan gets into those central areas and he's got Arteta in his brain going out wide, out wide, out wide. And I think we'd see something a little bit different. And what's annoying is this was exactly the sort of game for me where you could do that, because Villarreal were quite spread, and we're not going to face those types of defenses in the Premier League. And that's why I think players like Gyökeres will thrive in Europe, actually. Tim Shelton, don't like this pattern I'm noticing of any time we become desperate, we hopelessly start crossing. Before, late in games, we used to be a lot more inventive. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
The Atlanta, I call it, of last season. Definitely
do you mean
don't want to see that again. I do.
You too. He means Ajax. Arsenal's defense on transition has a bad pace problem. The first half, the fastest speed between Norgard, Marino, and Skelly is 31 kilometers an hour. To put that into perspective, Zinchenko's max speed is 34 kilometers an hour. I think that's about the personnel who are on display, and it depends what type of game you're having. If you're up against Forest or something, I'd be looking at a Mosquera. I'd be looking at Saliba. I'd be looking at those types of play. Even Ben White. Ben White looks fit. Again, pause. But
Very
Ben
fit.
White looks back to his, if you look at his body, go back to, I'm going to say middle of 23, 24 to about the middle of 24, 25 when he got injured, and look at his body in 22, 23 and look at it now. He's gone back to the side. I don't know what he's done body composition wise, but he looks the same again. That's such a nerdy point, but he does. Alfie White, Norgard would stand up for me, solid defensively, bro. Someone at Brentford needs to get fired. 10 million for Norgard. It was like 5 interceptions in the first 10 minutes. It was crazy. Really good.
I think he's a lot more agile. We kind of spoke about it on the Scouted. He's surprisingly agile. There's going to be like big moments though. I guarantee you he's going to get clipped up in the way that Jorginho was clipped up in space. doing it, but he's more agile than people think.
Yeah. Final from Remedy. Hello, Remedy. Boys, I'm really racking my brain. Does Eze save us? I'm really not sure at all, and it's very worrying. Well, Remedy, two things. One, you're going to get a scouted on Leal on Friday on the Cannon podcast, so you can check that out, my friend. I'll send you a free subscription if you want for your time on the podcast. You talk on this. I think you've got good thoughts on this.
So there are two types of carriers that I'll leave you with, and I don't want to take away too much of the scouted because I think that it's really worth seeing. So if I say everything now, you're going to not watch that. So I would encourage people to do it. But there's two types of carriers, and these are two things that Arsenal lack. There's the carrier that looks to release, and then there's the carrier that looks to score. Leao is an example of a ball carrier looking to score when he attacks space. Eze is an example of a carrier looking to release players when he attacks space. And if we're looking at it, we lack a little bit of both, in this Arsenal team. And our best talents, by the way, are those things, but they're incredibly, young, and they're incredibly not ready yet, and they're going to be. It's just a case of how many ball carriers do we have that do those two things. And right now, you're looking at Bukayo Saka that can be both. But if you really think about it, how many ball carriers to score do we actually have? We look to address it with a lot of our recruitment in terms of having endurance in the carry with a powerful shot and all those things that we've talked about from a coaching perspective. Very few carriers to score in a sense.
Yep.
Now, the carriers to release and to release at the right moment, that's the other side of your Ezes, your Simmons, and those types of the Morgan Rogers, the Grealish at Villa, those types of carriers are very different. They're not scorers. They're more progressors to release at the right moment. And we don't have enough of those. That's the part of transition inevitability to me, where it's a two-pronged approach of both efficiency and decision-making in transition.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about that, Eze's release is so consistent. It is probably one of the best in the league. And solving that is incredible. And that's something that I would look at. Even on the Eze Scouted, we talked quite a bit about it and we showed examples. So I would have a look at that.
The only thing I'd add is I think there are players who can create from those zones inside in isolation, and there are players who need combinations. I think on the right we have one in Waneri who can create something on his own from that zone, whether it's a shot or a pass or a assist or whatever. At the moment on the left, Rice needs a run. He needs someone to combine with. He needs something. Marino, I don't think has the creative potential. I think Eze would give us someone who could create on his own from that situation. And if you look at some of those releases from Mateta, as George was kind of alluding to, there's I think there's a lot there. I think he'd help Gyökeres. I think he'd help Martinelli. Someone who, in the comments said, I can't believe we're saying give Martinelli 10 to 15 games. I'm not saying that. I'm saying give him 10 to 15 games with Eze. And that's a different beast. Joseph says, can you tell us how big is your Benny Blanco album on your phone? Very big, very big. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you all being here on the instant reaction. I was about to say different knock. You're not here for different knock. Thank you for being here on instant reaction. Appreciate it. We're here for half an hour. Well, we say half an hour. It ends up being about an hour every time. Half an hour to an hour after every single Arsenal game. We'll be here for the last preseason game on Saturday. And then, of course, we'll be back for the United game as well. But we've got, as we said, a scouts coming out on Leao. We put a main podcast out today talking about sort of how we're feeling ahead of the season. We had a roundup episode out last night. We've got a TCP live episode coming out tomorrow. George will be there because I can't be there. So it will be George and Rohan. Loads of good stuff. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, George.
Thank you. And before I go, I'm going to shout out Sean Hawks, who has been a 2-year member of TCP, which is crazy. And he was the one that sent in the thanks for keeping it Arsenal tag as well,
Sean,
which is like some major Cannon podcast lore there. So, mate, we do appreciate. I've seen your comment, and so I wanted to use my thank you for that. So thank you, Sean.
You've cooked. I didn't know that, Sean. You've cooked. Can you prove that? I believe you. We should give you some royalties. Thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for watching. And thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Ferocious.